Today we're going to introduce the business plan, and it all starts with defining the business plan. Key elements that we're going to talk about is what is the plan, why write a plan, as well as what are some of the advantages and disadvantages of authoring great business plans. It's essentially your playbook for running the company. So in that way, we're looking at it's the plan for the creation of the company, what's it going to take to get it launched, as well as what's it going to take to manage it. And with most plans, you're going to be looking somewhat in an infinite timeline. What do you think the business is going to be doing 3 years from now, 5 years from now, and in perpetuity? Now, the bulk of your attention and the bulk of your pages and the bulk of your focus is on what are we going to do now and what are we going to do in the next few years. But it's talking about the marketing, inclusive of the product design and development. It's talking about the operations. It's talking about the financing. It's talking about the teams and the partnerships. And you're doing it all in typically less than 20 pages. So in that way, you could spend hundreds and arguably thousands of pages on these topics, because it's a big deal to write what is my company going to do in every detail forever. Why is it constrained? Why is it often less than 20 pages? Yep.
Potential investors can read through it quickly.
There's the element of, well, who's the audience? And we'll talk about audience, and be it you as the team that's the audience, or partners or investors or lenders that may be the audience. Their attention span is relatively brief. And even 20 is a bit on the long side. But in that way, if they're going to put thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars into a venture, they want to see the details. And so that's, again, why we work with something that I would call kind of a medium weight at this 20-page element. As far as what is it? So in that context, it's defining exactly how the company is going to materialize, exactly the market size, exactly the competitors, why the team, as constituted and as it plans to evolve among the founders, the management, and the advisors and investors, is the right team that can carry this off. And it's also an owner's manual for the company. Even if you don't plan to raise money from investors, even if you don't plan to seek a bank loan, I would argue the business plan is certainly worth doing because it gives you as the owner some insights and it puts some ideas to paper and it lets you connect the dots of how does the product connect to the market, connect to the competition, connect to the financials. And you can use it as a goal-setting instrument as well that we'll talk about. So in that way, it, again, forces you to write things down. Particularly if you're working as a team, it helps you to set some goals. It helps you to define where do we want to be in a year, where do we want to be in 3 years, particularly on the financials. Also helps focus you on what you should do and what you shouldn't do. When is it valuable to know what types of products or services you should do, or what types of marketing or customers you should go after you write the plan initially? When is it valuable to check in on those things? Yep.
Before you make a new product?
Okay, before you make a new product. So you may be very clear in the beginning, this is what we want to do. This is our product. This is our audience. This is how it's competitive. But in 6 months, in a year, what changes? What changes for your venture a year after you've started? Does anything change?
The market might change. Customers' opinions might change.
The short answer is everything may change. The market may change. Competitors may change. Customer needs and wants change. People know what a netbook is? Heard of a netbook? Yeah. What's a netbook?
Laptop.
A netbook is a laptop?
Oh, a small laptop.
A small laptop. What can you do on a netbook different than a laptop?
Bring it around easier.
Okay, it's highly portable, smaller than a laptop, lighter. What else do you think a netbook was designed for?
Wasn't it designed like mainly to use the internet?
The internet. So again, the name kind of alludes to a netbook for an internet. And so a couple of years ago, people thought that everybody was going to replace laptops with netbooks. All you needed to do was get to internet, and you would no longer need a laptop. You don't need software on your computer. You don't need files on your computer. You just need internet access, and everything's going to be at your disposal. And you can buy that netbook for half or a third or the quarter of the price of what a laptop would be. But they never really took off. Kind of died out. Why do you think the netbook market never really took off?
I think part of it could have been the popularity of tablets.
Okay. So tablets came along, and I no longer really needed a keyboard. Portable was good, but I'd rather have more portable. And kind of the form and the feature and the function of it was somewhat inferior to tablets, pending your purpose and use of the tablet. What else do people do? Anybody not store any files locally? You just put everything up on Google, you put everything on these cloud drives, on Amazon. You don't keep any files locally at all. None. One? Yes? Two? Why?
My computer shut down, so I can't save stuff anymore, so I have to do that.
Okay. So you have some computer issues, some software issues or hardware issues of you can't save files, so you have to store them online. So is that your plan? You're going to do this forever?
No, I'm going to get a new one.
Okay, so it's kind of a temporary fix. You do it?
Yeah, because
Why?
whatever computer I use has my files.
Okay, so it gives you a little more flexibility of I don't need my computer with me. If I'm at work, if I'm at school, if I'm at library, if I'm with friend, etc., all I need is web, and I can get to the files I want. What's the problem with that? What's the downside with that when you go into a scenario where everything is online? What's the problem? Why only one person do it intentionally, one person does it as an IT workaround? Why do the other 33 of you store files locally?
I think it's less convenient.
Which is less convenient?
Storing them online.
Okay. Online feels less convenient. Why?
Because you have to go onto the internet.
Okay. Because you have to get online. We may not have web access everywhere we go. So we have to get online. And even if we do have web access, we have to kind of take the time. Yep.
Well, personally, it's because I always know if websites crashing or sometimes
Okay.
not saving properly. So
Sometimes you can't get online. Sometimes you don't have an internet connection. Sometimes sites are unavailable or crash. Why else? Why not keep your files elsewhere and remove them from your local PC? What may happen? Yep.
You could be hacked, potentially.
Okay. People have security issues of would they potentially be hacked? Could somebody get on that server and see those files that are off in some cloud? Whereas do I have more confidence that at least if they're on my local, if they're on my hard drive, if they're on my local device, do I have more confidence that they're secure? So again, there were a number of reasons that it never really took off, and it changed, and you saw companies recognize that, the smart companies recognize that, and get out of the netbook market pretty quickly and go back into an ultrabook market, which kind of sat in between in the context of still light, still very portable, but still retained all of those kind of laptop advantages in large part. What we also saw was the technology that emerged. Hard drives are increasingly rare in your laptop. Why is that the case? Why have a hard drive, meaning that a disk that's going to spin around like a record player to read data, why are they scarce?
they easily overheat.
There's a heating issue.
Solid state drives have replaced them
What's a solid state drive?
as the moving parts.
Okay. So what we're finding is that these types of things, these solid state drives that people have had on key rings and whatnot for a little while now, that has no moving parts. It's just kind of data. You're just getting elements like this that are big that are in your laptop. What's that do for your battery when you don't have to power anything that moves?
Lasts a lot longer.
Your battery lasts a lot longer. What's that do for your durability? I can drop this thing and I have no concern that my data broke or that my drive is not available. Why?
Because like with the hard drive where it's spinning, like since there's small parts, fragile, and it can break. And
Small parts. So if you have your who has a laptop? Okay. Hard drive? You have a hard drive? Yeah? So you'll hold it up and drop it and you'll be okay? No. Now our friend with a solid drive might not want to do it, his screen might break, but different technology, different durability, and you don't have the other typical failures that you would have when you're working with a device just from wear and tear. So again, different markets, things change, technologies emerge, operations emerge, and what you see in this context is that business plans would need to change as well. What we see too is that when you have a plan, it gives you some insight and some ability to adapt in time. And in that way, as the markets change, as things evolve, it gives you a plan for what are we going to do about that. It also is very helpful as a communication tool. So in that context, it lets you know, as we're talking with our founders, as we're talking with prospective investors, as we're talking with other partners, what is it we want to say? How do we want to say it? How do we all get on the same page to tell people collectively what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, where we're going to do it, when we're going to do it, what number is tied to that. And so the business plan is where all of that is sourced from. Often business plans required of banks, required of investors. Why does that make sense? Why do they want to see your plan? Yep.
They want to know that their investment will work out.
They want to know the future. They want to know, what are you going to do with my money? And so in that way, this is your essentially contract of what you think is going to happen based on the monies that they're putting in. And so the plan also will define what is it we're going to do. Now, when you look at a company, they do lots of things. Working from the top, there's some organization, some firms, some employees, some org chart, some structure. And then you move down in the technology, they design things oftentimes. They may procure or buy things. And then when you go to the bottom left and begin to work across, we may build things, we may manufacture things, we may sell and service things, and we reap some level of profit in the end. Do you know of a company that does all of this? Well, let's go down the route. So, Under Armour shirt. What's Under Armour do based on what's on this chart? Taking it from the top. Do they have a firm infrastructure? Is there a company? There's a company. There's HR. Do they do technology development? They do. So they do a lot of these top-line elements. What about in the lower left? These logistics, operations. Do they make anything? Say they make nothing. Nike makes nothing. Adidas, Reebok make nothing. Why is that a true statement?
Is it outsourced?
It is outsourced. Why does Nike need to own a golf club manufacturing facility? Why would you want to own a golf club manufacturing facility? When do people buy golf clubs? Or track shoes? Or tennis shoes? Made for tennis. Yep. When do we need such things? When they're in season. A lot of people buy these types of things in the spring. If you're going to buy snowboarding related things, you're going to buy it late fall, early winter. If you're going to buy swim gear, you're going to buy it typically late spring. Now it varies a little bit regionally, weather patterns, parts of the world, etc. But for most of these firms, they don't want to own factories when they're only using a piece of that production. You also hear elements of low cost of manufacturing. What happens when I buy a plant in a location and I think that there's a low cost of manufacturing, a low cost of labor associated with that? What happens as communities and markets and cities grow? What happens to the cost of labor?
It goes up.
It goes up. So as cities emerge and grow and get more populous, cost of living goes up. Cost of labor goes up. What does that mean if you own that factory? Yep.
It costs more money because you pay the workers more.
Okay. So in that way, all of your costs went up. What does it mean if you have outsourced to that factory? What do you do? What do many companies do? Yep.
I mean, it depends on if they have a long-term contract.
And if they don't?
If they don't, they might leave or negotiate.
You move somewhere else. You find new providers. So you see a whole pattern of this emerging. And fundamentally, Nike is not the best at manufacturing. Under Armour is not the best at manufacturing. They want to go to the people that know how to manufacture well, and they can move around based on who gets better and who gets stronger and who gets more competitive. Most companies do these elements that are shaded. Most companies, there's some element of company, there's some element of design, development, but most firms are not involved in manufacturing. Not all firms are even involved in marketing and selling. Now, a couple are. There are a few Nike stores. There are a few Under Armour stores. But I would expect that 95 to probably 99% of what they sell is not out of the few stores that they own. They're selling into all of the other retailers, the big box retailers. So in that way, even marketing and sales they do, but it may not be to the end consumer. It might be to some intermediary as well. The reason this chart is helpful is that you want to think about these. You want to think about these elements of value chain as you're looking at your companies and recognizing what are we going to do versus what may still need to be done, but we're going to do it through other partnerships or agreements or outsourcing. So great plans take some time. And I've worked with entrepreneurs on plans where they were on version 17 before they showed it to the first investor. And took about 8 months to write that plan. Typically not the thing you write in a weekend. Typically not the thing you write in a month. May take some time. And particularly with awareness of business model canvas, doing business model canvas, kind of validating your plan, getting that customer feedback are things you'd want to do before you would write the full business plan. So in that way, disadvantages are it takes time, needs to be updated, not something you write once, put on a shelf, and never look at again. Also something you want to invite some critical review of. And that way, who do you want to review your plan? Oftentimes I have students that want to see an example of a good plan. Good plans are hard to see. Why is that the case? Why don't I have a whole catalog of great successful business plans for you to look at? Or if you write great plans, are you fine with posting those up on the internet? No. Hopefully not. Why not?
Because then everybody's going to know all of your plans, essentially. So.
Everybody knows your deepest, darkest secrets. Everybody knows your plan. Everybody knows how you're going to attack and have success in a given market, and we don't want to share that. Rightfully so. So in that way, again, we don't want to typically distribute our plan on an open basis. So who do we share it with to get this feedback that we want? Who do you show your plan to?
You.
People that you know, hopefully. So some people that have some level of insights or expertise that you may know, might be a friend, might be a family member, might be a former colleague, might be faculty, might be other people that you have met or know in some capacity, or other people that you meet that have some trusted reference or affiliation. But it's, again, I'd say very discerning in how you do that and when you do that.
In summary, when you consider the business plan, many of us think that it's a document, again, that's only used for investors or to get loans. But as a reminder, this is your owner's manual. The business plan, in my opinion, is best used and best leveraged by the owners of the company, and it's really your playbook for running the company. It's a tool to plan, track, and also adapt the company. It's also a tool for raising capital, but more fundamentally, I think it's something that if you put sufficient time and resources into and revise periodically, it's something that can be used by your senior team within your organization to make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time and that you really stay on track to what your goals are. And if those goals change, if your techniques or tactics or strategies are modified, you update the plan from there. And so in that way, again, it's a living document that's good not only for investors, but great for your team alone.